people are picked for who gets the money and the support?
Well, if you don't use my opponent's executive assistant to run your campaign, you have a target on your back. I have a target on my back. The district clerk has a target on his back. That's why he has an opponent right now.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the A-List by Angie Mertens Special Candidate Edition. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the most closely watched elections here in Galveston County, the election for county judge. The election is going to be on March 3rd, so please, everybody get out and vote. Joining us is Chris Kennard, the challenger in this race against incumbent Mark Henry. Chris Kennard has spent years advocating for transparency, fiscal responsibility, and stronger community engagement in local government. Kennard believes Galveston County stands at a turning point and is offering voters a fresh vision for leadership. We'll be discussing the key issues facing the county, from disaster preparedness and infrastructure to public safety and community trust. Chris, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Angie.
Well, to kick things off, why don't you just tell me a little bit about you, your family, and your background?
Well, I am the daughter of a naval pilot, and I was born in Houston. When he finished his service with the Navy, he went into the reserves, moved our family to Beaumont, and he started an aviation insurance company. Went for many years, all the way through my sophomore year in high school, and which his company outgrew Beaumont, and he moved us to Dallas. And I finished up high school, went to college, met my husband there, and I worked in his office since the time I was 13. I wasn't a privileged child. We didn't go to Paris during spring break or summer. I worked, and I learned everything about the company. I learned how to underwrite. I typed policies. I learned all the terminology. I learned everything from the ground up. My mother was a pilot as well, a private pilot. We had our own little twin-engine Apache, and I spent lots and lots of time in the backseat of that plane, going lots of places. I think that they had high hopes of me following in that career path, but since I don't like to fly, I was deathly afraid. Didn't go that way. So I met and married my husband, who had a different career path and took me down the path of law enforcement. And we met and married and got sent all over the country, and then started having our children. We have 3, and traveled and 6 different states, and came time to retire, and they asked us where we wanted to go. Ended up back here, and we wanted to go home to Galveston County, and came back here.
Well, fabulous. So, okay, this is something that seems to be confusing to almost everyone. Right. Could you explain to us what the job of county judge is, and really explain how it's not a judicial position?
Well, it is I liken it to the mayor of a city. So it's the mayor of a county. Okay. Presides over commissioner's court, which is like the city council, and oversees budget. They have meetings, runs the agenda, is the third vote in the quorum, and then there's county legal, there's purchasing, all the contracts, all of that. So
oversee the business of the county.
The business of the county, yes.
Fabulous. Mm-hmm. So you're running as an incumbent.
No,
you know what?
No,
hey,
I'm the challenger.
I have gone over to the next page,
yes.
which is the next person.
Yes.
Let's go back to yours. All righty. You're running as the challenger. No.
Yes.
So, what experience do you have managing large budgets or overseeing big projects? People are kind of wanting to know.
Well, my father's business went from a tiny little business in Beaumont to it grew so large that we had to move to Dallas. We took over a whole wing of Love Field terminal building, and that blew up. And that was his company. And so I worked in that company, and I learned everything about that company, and I have done everything in that company, from filing files to doing everything. And
I love the work ethic that your dad brought you to work
Yeah.
at 13 and was like, she's going to need these, how to do budgets and how to work with people. And
there was no getting out of that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I don't know who goes to Paris for spring break, but I want to be in that family.
Yeah. No. And but that's not all. I mean, when we moved, when my youngest child went into kindergarten, I started working for an oral surgeon. It was a single practitioner, and there were three of us, and it was him and another person and me. And I learned from the ground up everything about that practice. I'm not a doctor, I couldn't do that, but I've done everything else. I've done patient relations, I've done everything from sterilization, I have done insurance on the medical side. I've done everything. I have done surgical stuff, which I absolutely love, everything. And that led me to when we moved here, and that was for 8 years, 4 years of that. But then when we moved here, I went to work for a bigger practice, and that was 3 doctors. And they had enough staff to where I could kind of choose where I wanted to be, because I could do everything in that office. And the best fit for me, they thought, was marketing and PR for their office, because I knew so much about it that I could go out and be the face of the office. And their office had been in practice for 30 years. So it's word of mouth, because it's such a subspecialty. And so I would go out to all the dentists, and I would do lunch and learns and have our doctor come out and do a specialty talk on maybe implantation or something like that. And I would go before him, set everything up, and prep the doctor on what they were going to talk about and his staff, and make sure that everybody was happy. My job was to keep the dentist happy. So anything that they had to a grief about or anything like that, they would come to me. I would resolve it, and that is my strong suit, is uniting and bringing people together and solving problems.
You know, one thing that just in the few questions that you've answered, the word learned has come up about 10 times. I love that you're a lifelong learner, that you didn't stop, that you learned every single part of that practice, every single thing that you could do. I love the voraciousness of that learning that you seem to have. So one of the most controversial issues that we have in the country right now is immigration. And that's an issue that affects Texans more than most, with our neighbors to the north in Houston having the worst human trafficking in the country. This is a subject that hits close to home. How do you think the county can work with local law enforcement to combat illegal immigration and the controversies that come with it?
Well, I stand by our laws, first and foremost. They're put in place for a reason. I stand with our law enforcement, first and foremost. I am a huge defender of our law enforcement, supporter. My husband was a law enforcement officer for 33 years, Dallas police officer for 6, FBI agent for 27. We have borders, and I know the humanity. I'm a Christian. We're all, all of that, but there are rules, and there are rules to enter the country legally, and we have to do things the legal way. I want us to be humane, and I want us to treat each other civilly, but we have to obey the rules.
And do you see that as the county judge, you could set the tone of the environment as civil,
I hope so.
so that the law enforcement trickles down your support for that?
I hope so. I'm not sure what is inside my purview to do that. I will, I law enforcement that's the sheriff's office, the police, and all of that. But if I could set a tone for being civil and being Christian and being there and loving people, I hope so.
I think that that's possible. I think that the mayor of the county would have a big influence on. Like, you're not going to make law enforcement decisions,
no.
but setting the tone, I think, would be something that would be possible. The next issue that's near and dear to Galveston County residents is high taxes. So property taxes are out of control here. Local governments have done a good job at lowering the effective tax rate, but it's not as helpful to citizens as it could be with the rising property values.
Right.
Do you feel something can be done to give citizens relief for their high taxes here in Galveston County?
Yes, I do think we need to enact real tax cuts that are in line with the rising appraisal valuations.
Absolutely. Just people are just going to start being taxed out of their homes, and that's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Things like the homestead exemption, I think maybe that's going to help.
I think that'll help.
Especially senior citizens.
Yes, absolutely.
I know that my mom lives in Galveston, and her taxes are frozen. They froze when my dad turned 65, and they bought that house. Well, they're ridiculously low. But when we inherit that house, it's going to go from its $40,000 valuation to the $650,000 valuation it has now.
Wow.
And that is going to tax anybody out of owning the home. And I think some real tax cuts are really, especially though for senior citizens that don't have the luck that she has of having it, back in the 90s, having it frozen.
Yes.
What is your plan to address flooding and stormwater management in vulnerable areas of Galveston County?
Well, I have met with the drainage district directors, the board, and we will get something proposed in line. We're working on that. We will get something done. We don't have a watershed project. We don't have a watershed plan, which we should have had something in place after Harvey. It's been too many years that we haven't got anything in line. So
it's about time.
It's about time.
We need that. I think
Yes.
that people have such a fear after Harvey.
Yes.
Even though cities have done some great projects and all of that, it's just that we lived through it, and people have fears of what they've lived through. So
Yes.
that's
They're not taking it seriously enough.
I think that people will love that kind of leadership that'll push through something that's very, very near and dear to them.
We live half a mile from ground zero from Harvey, so it is near and dear to me.
Yeah, it's hard. I lived in a neighborhood where the floodwaters were at my chest, and walked outside, and it's another world out there. 3 days of being on another planet is something we don't want to live through again,
Absolutely not.
So, the last year there was a Petaway against the county of Galveston lawsuit that the county won, and the lines were redrawn for the districting here. Many of the historically underserved communities really feel like they're not truly being represented and they're not being heard. Do you have any idea how to make all citizens of Galveston County feel heard?
Well, yes, we need to reach out to them. We need to put ourselves out there and reach out to them and let them know that we're there and we will hear them.
So, are you accessible? Are you open to talking to the people? And
My phone number, my cell number is on all of my literature. And they just have to call. And when I get into office, It's still going to be there. I will continue to attend the organizational and the committee meetings with all the different cities. And if I am in another meeting or cannot make it, I will send somebody. I'm not going to be hiding in my office or not. I will be a full-time county judge. That will be my sole purpose. I won't be doing anything else. I will be full-time. You're going to pay me and get your money's worth. And I will be attending those meetings, and I will be accessible, and my phone number will be on there.
So I love that people will be able to call you and feel comfortable for doing that with their, I mentioned that my mom lives in Galveston. That's one of those underserved communities. And, some people think that the big, more wealthy communities like League City, that they get more services. How should the county ensure fair access to services across rural, suburban, and coastal communities? Here I'm saying that most people think larger and more affluent cities like League City get the lion's share of the resources.
Well, we'll have to look into that and see. We can have fairs. We can have, we can go out into the community. We'll have to look into that. I'm not sure how we can work that, but we'll do something.
Right.
We'll
but
have
you
to
see that, there's Santa Fe and Hitchcock.
Yeah.
And I think that the services that Hitchcock and League City get are not the same. They don't feel like they're getting the
Right.
same. And of course, they're not as big. They don't have as much tax base because
Right.
not as many of them.
Right.
But I think that people want to know that they can outreach and say,
Yeah.
hey, I'm nervous that there's flooding in my backyard, or I'm nervous that the fire department isn't big
Well-
enough here, or,
Once again, I will attend the organizational meetings. I will continue to do that. I will do that. Or I'll have somebody there, and they can express their concerns. We'll address them, and that's one way.
Right. Well,
So,
being out there for them is going to be great.
if they don't voice it and tell me, then they can come to the meetings. I always go to the women's meetings. Of course, that role is going to expand, and there'll be many more. So, when we're there, hopefully they'll be there, and we'll know.
You touched on that if they tell me, a lot of people will like to complain and be upset, I've had this ditch in my front yard for years and it overflows every time the rain. Well, did you bring it to city council? Well, no. Did you bring it to the county? No. They should know. Well, they're not driving by your house every day when it rains. You have to point out the problems. I mean, the city and the county, they can fix things or they can work on things, but they have to know that there are problems.
Right.
So that is, you touched on that. It's a problem with any position, knowing what's out there.
Right.
But so a central high profile responsibility of the county judge is directing county's hurricane response and recovery efforts. They are the face on television for the world when our county has a hurricane or a natural disaster. They are the point man or woman for the decision making on the moment, on the second, decisions that have to be made during a natural disaster. How would you handle emergency decision making during a disaster? And who would you rely on for input?
Well, first of all, we have a beautiful emergency management center in League City, and there is a team, there is a director that we've had many over the past few years, and I would hire the best, and they rely on information from the meteorologist at the National Weather Center, and you get that information, it's compiled, and it's given to me. And then you would disseminate that. So
unfortunately, That's a big part of living in the Gulf Coast.
Right.
Is we do have flooding, tornadoes, hurricanes. There's a lot of natural disasters here. Not something we love,
Right.
but this job is important during that time and leadership. How do you think you are on quick decision making? You know, how do you hold up under pressure?
I hold up under pressure really well. Like I said, I'm not a meteorologist. My opponent is not a meteorologist.
Right.
So you get the information from who you choose to put in that position over the emergency management center, the OEM. And I will, I believe there's someone there now. There hasn't been. There's been a rotating director throughout the years. I will pick, or if this guy is good, he'll stay. But I will pick somebody wonderful and brilliant, and he gets his information from the National Weather Service, and then it's just disseminated. I mean, nobody here is a meteorologist. We don't get this information through our heads. We get it through other sources, through the professionals.
Right. Fabulous technology
Yes.
that we have.
Yeah.
So, why are you running for county judge, and why now?
Well, I've been entrenched in the Republican Party for 13 years. I've been my husband's campaign manager for 13 years. And I have watched a pattern develop with my opponent, and I just have watched a pattern of intimidation and domination. And when he, this time, was going to be unopposed, I would hear people say, why doesn't anybody step up? And then as it got closer and closer to the deadline, I thought, why not me? I can do this. And I'm a grassroots candidate. I paid my own money, took money out of our savings and started a bank account. And this grassroots campaign caught on like wildfire. And the support has been phenomenal. The citizens have they've just stood up and said no more. And that's where we are.
So, what do you think you'll do different?
What I will do different is my administration will be transparent. It's going to be given back to the citizens. This is not about me. I'm just the vehicle. It's the citizens. And it's them that is going to carry this across the finish line. I will work with the elected officials, not against them. I'm a team player. I will stay in my lane. I will let them run their independently elected offices to the best of their ability, the way they want to. And I won't mess with them. I will give every elected official a fair and level playing field to give them the money that they need to hire really good people to work in their offices, down from the county court judges to every elected official. They have to go in and fight to get the money to hire decent people. It's embarrassing for them to interview someone who has good credentials and they say, this is what we can pay you, and they walk away because they can go down the street and go to a menial job and get paid more. It's embarrassing. And then if you're not in the cabal, and I'll just say it right out there, because I say the quiet things out loud. There's no reason not to. They give them everything they want. They give them every bit of salary they need to pay their people well. And the other ones have to fight to get something out of commissioner's court, which is the taxpayers' money. It's not their money. That's why I'm running. And I will not let my administrative assistant run a private business out of the county courthouse on company time. I won't do that. It's going to be business, county business, all the time, 8 hours a day, full time. And I will be a full-time county judge. You'll get exactly what you pay for.
So you feel like right now there's some sort of control going on where people are picked for who gets the money and the support?
Well, right now, if you don't use my opponent's executive assistant to run your campaign, you have a target on your back. I have a target on my back. The district clerk has a target on his back. That's why he has an opponent right now who doesn't have any accountancy training. It doesn't have any legal training, and she's running for district clerk. And previously, we lost our treasurer, who was a CPA, and the whole treasurer's office got abolished. And we have no independent treasurer now. And it's now under the control of my opponent, who it's in the in the county clerk's office, under his control. And secondly, he pulled the payroll, the payroll department was under the treasurer's department always and forever. But when he abolished the treasurer's office, he moved payroll from the treasurer's office into the financial services division of the county judge, so that he can pay people as much as he wants, and he can hide that. That's a little known fact.
I think it sounds like you want to kind of change the way the county's been being run.
Well, I want to bring sunlight into the backdoor deals and in the dark places. Darkness erodes trust. This isn't about party politics anymore. This is about trust. And sunlight brings trust out, and it grows trust. And sunlight also disinfects.
I love that analogy. Well, while we close things out, I normally would give you 3 minutes to tell your party, but I think we kind of just did. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to cover so that people know about your campaign?
I think I said everything, but I am service over self-interest. I'm a team player. I want transparency. I'm ethical. I have a backbone of steel. I have been fighting, and I will fight for the citizens once I get into office. I will never stop.
Well, thank you, Chris Kennard, for being with me today on the A-List by Angie Mertens Special Candidate Edition. And remember, early voting starts February 17th and runs through the 27th. And primary election day is March 3rd. Get to know your candidates and get out and vote. We'll see you next time.